We want to build the #1 international baseball league.
Oh, what a catch! What a catch, baby!
Like I said, I feel blessed.
The pitcher grabbed by Schlitter goes for the force of the plate.
Ground ball, double play, game over. Wow!
This is a money ball, gentlemen, and this.
Oh, money ball!
Rocking and rolling down here with another episode of the Baseball United podcast. I'm your host, Liam Skiffington. Today we're joined by a former big leaguer, Robbie Ross Jr., who spent 7 seasons in the major leagues with the Texas Rangers and the Red Sox. Robbie also competed in last year's All-Star Showcase in Dubai, and it's great to have you here, Robbie. You look great, man. How's everything been going?
Liam, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate you having me on the show. Life's good, man. We're doing well here in Kentucky.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. So, Robbie, got a lot to cover today. I'm super curious about your career, your thoughts on our league and everything. But before we start, man, I owe you a thank you. And I don't know if you'll remember this. We were talking a little before the show, and I didn't bring this up. I don't know if you'll remember this. So in 2017, when you were with the Red Sox, me and one of my buddies from high school, his name was Danny Miller, we reached out to you and your lovely wife, Brittany, regarding like a t-shirt business we had. We were 18, 19 years old at the time. You guys responded to us. We, all 4 of us, met at a Starbucks right outside of Fenway in, like I said, 2017. And we started talking about whatever we were doing for you guys or trying to do for you guys. And then we showed you a design for a shirt called Flow Bros, which was for Andrew Benintendi and Brock Holt. And you looked at us and you said, did those guys have these shirts in hand yet? And we said, no, we don't even know how to get them to them. And you said, send them to me at Fenway. I'll make sure they get their hands on them and they wear them. And we were like, awesome, thank you. So a couple weeks later, we send them out. And then the Red Sox posted a picture of Mookie Betts and Brock Holt wearing that t-shirt. So from there, Robbie, that was kind of a jump start for my career in this industry in baseball. Because shortly after that, I got connected with Mookie Betts and his mom, and we were able to do a lot of things for their charity event that year as well. So I have to tip my cap to you and just say thank you very much for that and giving a 18-year-old kid, that opportunity at the time.
Man, that is so funny that you mentioned that. Like, it's wild to think about the things that, you look back on and you say, wow, like that's how, like I was saying to you, like it's hard for me sometimes to remember people's names, but I'll remember faces. And it's funny because I remember Brittany bringing it up to me about you guys doing the shirts. And she's like, we got to meet with these guys. They got some great designs. Like this would be cool to see where it could go. And they had made shirts. You all had made shirts for, the Flow Bros. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that's pretty funny that you'd bring it up right now and not beforehand, which is pretty sick, dude. That's awesome.
Had to get that authentic reaction out of you. I couldn't spoil it.
Yeah, you did. I was sitting here like, holy crud, he kept that in this whole time. That's great.
So like I said, man, thank you. I'm excited that you're here and excited to get to know your journey a little bit better. So you grew up in Kentucky. You were named Gatorade Player of the Year in 2008. You were drafted after that. Tell me about what it was like being basically in the national spotlight at that young.
Man, it is so funny. I remember my dad always saying to me during those times, like, hey, man, eat this up. You just don't know what this is like. You don't know what kind of experience you're getting from this and just kind of what kind of platform you've been blessed with opportunity to be at. And man, it was crazy. Like looking back on it and kind of now being at the age that I'm at. And I remember my dad saying, like, when you get older, you'll appreciate these things and you'll start to see like what it was like. Cause there's a young kid here locally that's going through the same thing. And it's kind of cool to see from the perspective of an outsider now to see kind of how big, I guess, the stage was, but also like how, I guess, like a little bit dumb and naive I was as a young player. Like I just enjoyed the game. And I think that was part of it too. And I remember guys on my team all throughout my career that said, hey, once this game becomes more of a job than it was a fun time and experiencing, and making it a game and enjoying it the way that we, should, they said that's the time you should walk away from it because then it becomes overwhelming and you're not playing for the right reasons. And I get it. Like, there's a business side to everything, and there's a business side to this game. But there's also that childlike mentality of, team camaraderie, all the stuff that goes into it. And I think that once you lose that aspect and you put that pressure on yourself, it's hard to get back. So, but at the time, being that young, I was like, this is an experience all in itself. Like, I'm trying to soak it all in. I'm just trying to have fun. And honestly, during that time, I was playing good baseball, and it was just kind of flowing and just coming out of me. And I was, I had some very good opportunities to get to, get a full ride to UK. And then I was, I had teams looking at me, but it was funny because the Rangers, when they drafted me, I didn't even know they were even drafting me. I had talked to every other team but them, and so when they drafted me, I was like, "What the heck?" But it was awesome, man. It was really cool experience, especially to share that with all my family members.
You grew up in Kentucky, so who was your team that you would root for growing up?
It's funny. I was so just into playing that I didn't really care much about teams. And being in Lexington, the closest team was Cincinnati, the Reds up in Ohio. So we liked the Reds, and obviously they had the Big Red Machine and things like that. And my dad my dad got drafted out of high school as well. So he got drafted out of high school by the Milwaukee Brewers, and then got traded over to the Orioles and played with Cal Ripken, and was roommates with him a few years, like when they would go on the road trips and stuff like that. But so I always was kind of like, ooh, the Orioles were cool. I like the Brewers, but it was just it was more or less like it was a big Boston and Yankees teams because we didn't have cable. So growing up, we would always see the playoff games. And so Fox 56 was the channel we had on whenever the Yankees and Boston were playing pretty much in the playoffs during that time, that stint. So I always liked those teams, but I never really had a team that I was like, oh, they're my team. And then, a player wise, I was always the one I knew most about was Nolan Ryan. So he was one that I was like, ooh, I love his bulldog mentality.
Right, right. So, Robbie, you spent a couple years, about 4 years in the minor leagues before you get called up in 2012 to the Texas Rangers. Well, you struck out Paul Konerko in your first appearance. What was that day like for you? What do you remember about getting the call?
What's crazy is that I went to spring training, and I was in spring training, and I kind of just started as a reliever. They were like, hey, we're going to put you in as a reliever. And this was in big league camp, my first big league camp. I had not been to big league camp yet. So they were like, hey, this is what you're going to do. You're going to be, we're going to do all the workouts to get you ready and extend you out to get you ready for the season. And so I was expecting to, work as a starter, but all of a sudden they're like, hey, you're going to get in the game in the late innings, seventh, eighth, ninth inning when all the veterans are gone. We'll get you in those games. And one day they put me in the fourth or fifth because somebody was, struggling, and I went in and kind of did well. And then the next day or 2 days later, I threw again. It went well. And then all of a sudden I look up and I've thrown 12 innings and not given up a run and kind of throwing well. And what's funnier is we're getting close to where the season's, they're about to break for the big league games. And so I went in and was like, hey, when are you guys going to put me, down in minor league camp and let me start working out to be a starter again? And they're like, are you an idiot? You've thrown so well, you might have thrown yourself into potentially being on this roster. And guys on my team, like Colby Lewis and all the guys on our team, Mark Lowe and Scott Feldman, are like, are you a moron? Why would you go in there and ask them when you're going to send you to AAA? They're like, you got a chance to make this big league team. And I was so young that I was like, I didn't know. I was just trying to make sure that I was ready to go as a starter. And then lo and behold, I'm at the end of camp and it's April Fool's. And Ron Washington brings me in the office and he says, hey, man, we don't have any more lefties in big league camp. We're probably just going to rock an all right-handed bullpen. I'm like, I'm still in big league camp and I'm a lefty. He's like, you're a lefty? I'm like, yeah. And I was thinking he was serious. He just didn't notice that I was left-handed this whole time. I'm like, and he had got me. He's like, oh man, never mind. We'll take you with us to the big leagues. I was like, no way. And so that was a shock. Because the whole time I'm thinking I was in AA last year through 8 games as a starter. There's no way they're going to bring me up and skip AAA or even just put me in as a reliever. And lo and behold, they put me in, and then I get there, and that first big league game, man, it was tight. I mean, I walked the first guy. I think the first one was Gordon Beckham. Gordon Beckham, and I walk him on 4 straight, just boom, 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 4 straight. And the next batter is Adam Dunn, I think, and he hits a ball that if they had a dome in Arlington, it would have gone through it. Like it went straight up, and it was the highest fly ball I'd ever seen. And then the next batter was Canerco, and I struck him out, and I was like, okay, I can do this. So it was exciting, just one of those surreal moments of like, holy cow, like what an opportunity, and excited.
And as that season went on, Robbie, you certainly proved that you could do this. You had a 2.22 ERA, and you were in a bullpen that was filled with guys like Alexi Agondo, Joe Nathan. I think Koji was in that bullpen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you were an integral piece to that. They made the playoffs that season. You were certainly an integral piece. One thing I want to ask you is, you also 2012 was also Yu Darvish's rookie year.
Yeah, we were rookies together.
Like? Yeah, what was that like to be around that in terms of like the media coverage he got? Had you ever seen anything like that before?
You know, it was my rookie year, his rookie year. I had no other, experience with what was going on, and most of the guys around us were like, "This is crazy! Like we haven't even seen this." So it was a cool experience, and especially to get to be around you, and he was such a good dude to me. What's funnier is that, fast forward 2 years later, he teaches me my curveball. Like I was only throwing fastball slider out of the bullpen, threw a changeup one time in spring training, and Torrey Hunter almost killed me. Like I'm not kidding you. I threw a changeup to Torrey Hunter, and he hit it back at me. I was like, I'm gonna just throw fastball slider, because I started throwing with Joe Nathan, and Joe would always throw long toss, and he would be like, "Let's throw long toss today," and so we would long toss every single day. And I was like, dude, I'm worn out, but everyone's like, "You're the rookie, you got to throw Joe," And so I was the best thing ever. But getting to be around the guys, and like you said, those integral pieces of our team at that year. I mean, we had that all-star team. We had like 8 guys make the all-star team in 2012. It was crazy. I wasn't even on the ballot, and at that time, I had thrown like 49 innings at the all-star break and had like a point something ERA, and wasn't on the all-star ballot. And everyone on the team was like, "This is crazy. Why are you not on the all-star ballot?" And like Ron was like, "Hey man, I can't, we have so many guys making the all-star team. I can't even make you my coach pick." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "It's okay." And I was, young and dumb. I was like, "I'll just make it next year," like not knowing how hard it was, because like, honestly, I was just so young. And like I told you earlier, like I just was having so much fun with it. I just thought, okay, this is how it's supposed to be, and enjoy these moments. But definitely, I mean, getting to be around the guys I got to be around was a blast.
During your time in Texas, Robbie, you also got to learn from pitching guru Mike Maddox. What was that like, and what were some of the key lessons you took away from your time with him?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Mike was awesome. I mean, he was very happy-go-lucky, but when it was time to get down to business, he got down to business. And he was one of those guys that you could go to when you were struggling, when you needed advice, certain things that you were like, "Hey, I'm struggling with this." He would help you. Like, you're struggling with pitch, he'd help you. He'd go back and look at film. And multiple times he would always say to me, "Hey, Robbie, when are you at your best?" He's like, "When they see very little of you." And he would just say that to me all the time. But like, he was also like, don't shy away from guys, and also go, these guys don't know who you are, and you don't know who they are. So he's like, pitch to what your strength is and do what you have to do from there. And also, the good thing about him was he brought Greg with him too. So Greg was around us all the time too. So we got to see Greg Maddox around the clubhouse. I mean, he told me so many stories, told me and taught me so many things pitching wise, and just all the stuff that you don't expect to get from Hall of Famers and guys that are just going to go down in history as some of the best coaches and players, that I got to experience and be around at such a young age. And as a rookie, I mean, I got to play with some players on that Texas Rangers team and veteran players that just changed my life personally as just a human being, but also changed my life as a baseball player.
Robbie, so in before the 2015 season, you were traded to the Boston Red Sox. You were still fairly 3 years in the big leagues. What was that like for you, kind of mentally, to deal with getting traded, especially from Texas up to Boston?
Yeah, sure. That year I struggled. I got to start. Spring training was unbelievable. I came out, was like, this is going to be like, I'm going to my first year of rotation. I'm thinking, oh man, I'm going to be a starter for this year. Like if I can put together a good season, like I could really set myself up for success. And I think that's when I started to put that pressure on myself, Liam. I started to think like I needed to do something outside of myself. I needed to be a different person than I already was and like not work with what I already had. And I got that first taste of adversity. Like even my first years leading up to that, 2012 and 13, I really hadn't experienced a lot of, negative, uh, I guess like bad success. And that year I started not pitching well. I started having some troubles here and there. I had some games that snowballed on me and I started to feel that sting of not doing well. And so I started putting all that added pressure on myself of like what I needed to do and what I shouldn't do. And so I kind of spiraled a little bit with just mentally thinking about pitching well and allowing the outcome to be negative, and not put myself in a good position to, have success. And so when I got sent to AAA, it was kind of deflating that year. And so when I was traded, I was kind of like, oh man, well, you know, this stinks, but I was like, well, somebody else wants me now, and it's the Red Sox of all places. Like I was like, this is epic. Like I had such a good time in Texas. I mean, I was looking forward to coming back the next year and kind of stamping my, self again as a reliever because I had gone from pitching in the rotation to back to relieving and finished the year as a reliever and was really feeling it again. And so that's when they said, hey, we're going to go ahead and trade you over to Boston. And I was fired up. I mean, honestly, I was like, what an epic, team to go to and just the iconic, Red Sox Stadium in Fenway. I mean, it was just like, whoa, here we go. But definitely was cool to feel like, okay, somebody wants me now and kind of maybe I can do the reset button and get back to what I was doing.
Did it take you long, Robbie, to get kind of accustomed to the way of Red Sox fans and how passionate they are?
It wasn't as terrible as I thought it'd be. I was like, wow, this is a lot better than I thought. Like, I mean, I remember people being like, just wait till you get up there. Like, they're just different people up there. They're not as nice. I'm like you get bad fans everywhere. Like, it doesn't matter. And Boston was very embracive. Like, I mean, that was the thing was they knew their baseball, and I was just excited to be there because it was like, this is freaking Fenway. This is amazing. And so to have that opportunity and kind of get to see it as a team coming there, that was a different perspective. But being a hometown guy there and getting to be like, not hometown guy, I'm sorry, being the home team there and getting to actually have them be behind you was just like, oh, this is what baseball feels like. This is kind of that rowdy raha, which everyone had talked about in Fenway.
You also got, during your time in Boston, you also got a front row seat to almost a changing of the guard, a passing of the torch, if you will, from David Ortiz's last season to Mookie Betts blossoming into the superstar that he is today.
Oh, yeah.
What was that like for you, just to kind of watch, and what were you able to take away from that experience?
I mean, and I know Mookie's talked about this too in the past, is like how much, David and the other veteran guys were to him. And like getting to see just dudes like Dustin Pedroia and David Ortiz and, the other guys. I mean, David Price, Wade Miley, Chris Sale, like Rick Porcello. I mean, you start naming guys off that like me and Mookie and those guys got to play with. And like, I mean, there's a bunch of other guys I can keep naming that just were kind of guys that help, kind of help shape you in a way of like how you want to do things and how you may not want to do things. Like, because there's always good things and always bad things. And I know Mookie can look at that and I can look at it and say like, hey, there was a dude that I respected in this way, but there was another dude that I respected in this way, so getting to experience guys that were like, I mean, Hall of Famers. I mean, that just were some of the best iconic baseball players out of Boston. I mean, it was one of the coolest experiences because even my wife to this day is like, whenever she would see a player come up that was like a little bit cocky, a little bit swaggy, she would go, I can't believe they're acting like that. David never acted like that. Dustin didn't act like that. Dustin Pedroia, Adrian Beltre. I mean, she would just start naming off guys and be like, why are they acting like that? Like, because she would see that like the best of the best didn't act like that. And I was like, well, there's that learning curve. And when you have veterans around you that kind of step up and say, hey, man, like, I know you did it this way. We just want to help you and support you to be the best you can be and try to help you the best we can, because we know that you're going to be held accountable and you're going to be the person that's the face of baseball. And I think Mookie's done such an awesome job of being such a good, face for baseball, but just as a person too. Like, he looks like, I mean, everything he's doing seems like it's very genuine. And I think that's one of the biggest things that stands out to me is his ability to connect with just people.
I couldn't agree more. As we said in the beginning of the show, when I got to meet him and work with him a little bit, it was so interesting to me, especially being so young in my career at that point, how quickly he just made you feel welcomed and how down to earth and low key he was.
No doubt. I think that's the thing is, and that's what I always tell people all the time. I'm like, baseball will run out the people who aren't good people. Like, baseball will naturally just, if you're just an egotistical, like, kind of person, like, that happens sometimes and there is success, but most of the time those other guys who are just genuine good people and good baseball players, like, are able to kind of impact that person to kind of check themselves, And I think that's the thing is like, baseball players, I always tell people that too, is like, all my friends would ask about these players. I'm like, man, we could be sitting right here and it'd be me and you, Liam, and they may not know you, and they'll walk in here and treat you the same way as they're treating me.
Robbie, so it's often talked about that baseball is a fraternity. We've had an example of it on this show already.
Yeah.
You got to play with Adrian Beltre, Robinson Chirinos, Elvis Andrews, and Matt Barnes. I might be forgetting someone, but I don't believe I am. All of them co-owners of our league here at Baseball United. And then last year, you got to compete in the All-Star Showcase in Dubai. What was that like for you?
Oh, man. I mean, that was one of the coolest things, is getting to sharing that experience for the first time and getting to be around those guys and seeing them there too as well. I didn't get to see Max. Matt was obviously playing, but having those guys, obviously be part of the owning group. I mean, you couldn't have picked a better group of human beings. Like, as baseball players, they've had unbelievable success, all of them. But like, as people and human beings, I always look at that and say, like, Cash has surrounded himself with some unbelievable just people. And I think that's the thing is like, when you start to see yourself surrounding with people that are just genuinely good, down to earth people that really care about other people as well, I think you start to see why things kind of start to flourish and work out well. And I think that's something that's, come from the top, is that there's been good players that Baseball United has picked up to get into this, and like guys who I can say that I can respect and that I was genuinely so grateful for in my career. I mean, the guys you just spoke of, all of them, like, at one point or another, they impacted my career and they impacted my life, like, off the field. So like, looking at that and just seeing and being able to have that kind of as something to share in and getting to be part of, it's just a blessing.
Robbie, when you first heard about our league, were you immediately inspired by this mission and this vision to grow this game around the world?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was one of those things where it was like, is this real? Like, kind of thing, like almost like there, like, you've heard of it going on in Puerto Rico and Dominican and Mexico, but like, to go to Dubai, I had not heard of any other leagues that far out and that, like, we're kind of going to that level. And so once I heard about it, and Eddie had brought it up, and Barry Larkin and another friend of mine, Brantley Bell, had mentioned it, I was like, this is wild. And so for it to kind of come to fruition and get to experience it like we did last year, it was just like very surreal, and just honestly something you look at and say, like, what a blessing to be a part of something that might flourish into something that is going to be next level other than the MLB, So like, to be a part of that first group and kind of groundbreak it is just something that I kind of look at and say, what an experience,
When you look at Dubai, this ultra modern, futuristic, vibrant city, it almost seems like the perfect place to bring this sport to in order to continue its growth.
Definitely. I think that's the thing is like, I know that there's obviously other sports there and there's other things that are going on, but I feel like baseball being put over in the UAE is something that I think can be just as special as all the other sports they have. And I think that once there's more traction and once there's more fan base, I think that that's where, you know, I think that it's going to be something real special there, especially, the way that Cash in the front office and everybody are trying to push it. I think that they're doing it so organically and not kind of just forcing these things. It seems like it's all kind of coming together at the time it's supposed to.
Absolutely. When you take the city and you take our ownership group and you take our leadership group and pair them all together, it really seems like an exact recipe for success.
No doubt. I mean, and I think that's the thing and like we were saying, or like I was saying earlier, is like when you align yourself with good people who have the right vision and that are on the same page and that want to see something succeed and want to put their best effort for it, I think you start to see things start to flow better than you expected. Because I think that's the thing is like, there were some delays here and there that we had with it, but those delays ended up making it perfect timing for when it needed to happen. And I think that that's a true blessing.
Dealing with those types of delays and those hurdles also speaks to this leadership's group ability to pivot and continue to move forward in order for this greater mission.
Oh yeah. I mean, sometimes things like that happen with, Baseball United and trying to adjust for, the World Baseball Classic and all the things that happen, like, and just timing of things and just trying to make things work and like being able to see them happen, at the time they have and just happen organically and them to be able to adjust on the fly and then manage being able to get all the guys there and all the players and all the, just everything that goes into making, the game happen over there. I mean, to see it all come together, it's just like it's a puzzle piece, and that goes down to the fact that they've had a great group of people like yourself that are helping build this thing into what it can be.
Robbie, so what was it like for you? Bring me into the moment you were able to take the mound out there and be one of the first to truly compete.
Yeah, I mean, what a cool experience, especially in a cricket stadium. And I did not know that the cricket stadiums were as big as they were.
Neither
Like,
did
I mean,
I.
it
I
is
had no idea.
massive. For them to be able to put cabanas on the side of the field and like not have to worry so much about somebody getting smoked with a baseball, like that's something special. Like that just shows like all the details that go into it and making the fans experience more fun. And my cousins were there from Alaska, which is crazy. So they were there actually on a trip because they work with a company called doTERRA, which is an oil company, and my cousin's been working there, and they were there for that purpose, and they got to come to a game, and they had never been to a baseball game of mine. So for them to experience it on that level and get to see it like that, they were like, this is amazing. Like, I didn't know the games would be like this. I didn't know this is what it would be like. So it was cool to see that perspective. And so getting to take that mound and getting to experience that with my family there, and then my wife getting to watch and getting to see that from all the way across from Kentucky. I mean, it was one of the coolest experiences ever. Like to really say like, wow, we're doing some groundbreaking stuff, but get to step on that mound in a place that I just never expected my wildest dream I'd be at.
Unless you were there, you couldn't really feel how much everybody in the organization, including the players, were bought in on this mission and wanted to do this for the same reasons, to grow this game that all you guys love so much.
Oh yeah. I mean, I told people I've never been a part of a group of guys that have been so humble, but also like having just natural born leaders in the clubhouse. Like, I mean, Robinson Cano coming up and talking to us before and just kind of just, I'd never played with him. I'd heard good things about him, but getting to experience like his leadership and just his humility and just his passion for the game. And then also him just saying like, hey, Albert, like Pujols, like, hey, can you come up here and pray for us before this game? I'm like, are you kidding me? We had both teams in the clubhouse praying before the game. Like, that's a powerful thing, man. I mean, to have everyone unified in that way and to just feel like we're doing something special and honestly, for me, it felt like we were impacting the kingdom of God for people too, because baseball is an avenue to be able to teach and bring people into something that they may not have for themselves. And I think that's what baseball does, is allows you opportunities to love on people in a way that you just never expected. And I think that's through God's love personally. And I think that was something that I was like, this is a different kind of group to be around, and it's special.
I think that's a beautiful sentiment, and I couldn't agree more. What was it like for you? You talk about creating opportunities and giving opportunities to people. We were able to do that with a lot of prospects from around the
Oh my
region.
gosh, yeah.
What was that like for you to share the field with them?
I mean, talk about just unique. Like there was so many different guys. I mean, you got Bartolo Colon out there slinging it. You got me out there who hasn't played in a while either. Like you got Robinson Cano, like still. I mean, he had an unbelievable season this year too. I mean, like
It's
talk about
insane.
so many guys out there that you know, it's just a laundry list of people that were either at the top of their career, the middle of their career, or hadn't even had an opportunity. And like the guy that was throwing the bricks for that, I don't know what his name was. Do you remember his name? The
Dennis
catcher?
Kasumba, the Ugandan catcher.
Dude, like what? And then all the guys from India that came over that were on our team. I mean, talk about just a mix of a group, but for an opportunity that like is so special to share in and kind of like show that side of like we are trying to unify people together and get this thing going together. And it takes everyone and every moving piece in order to get that going. I think it was just cool to kind of see the platform that, we all were blessed with by Cash and the front office and everyone who kind of brought this together to get to kind of be the face of this and kind of move it forward.
And to kind of round this out, Robbie, we recently announced our 3 major events coming up over the course of the next year, starting with the Arab Classic, which will take place this November, which will be a bunch of national teams from around the region competing against each other in a tournament that, quite frankly, has never really happened, especially out there before. And I think that's a fantastic way to, one, elevate these national teams, and two, again, to our greater mission, grow this game and inspire people to fall in love with this.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is, and like we talked about, is like there's so many unique ways that this is coming together, and there's so many opportunities to kind of bridge the gap. And I think that Baseball United has done nothing but move along with this thing organically. And I mean, I can't speak on that enough. And obviously, I might be saying it over and over. It just comes from the top. Like there's so many people there that are working so hard that want this to succeed and that are doing such a good job making it succeed the way it is.
The second event we announced, Robbie, which will be February 2025, is the Baseball United Cup. This is going to be the first time in history that a professional baseball franchise will play a game over in that region. What do you make of that?
What a cool experience. I mean, talk about awesome. Like I think that's the thing is too, is like as much as I was you know, looking into this whole situation with Baseball United and trying to decide on like what my imagination went wild trying to figure out what it would be like and things like that. And so getting to experience it and see what it was like and see how the moving parts all came together, like I mean, there's no telling what this next part's going to be. I mean, because as good as it was the first time, I'm like, dude, this next phase, like, I mean, it's something where I say it's hard to one up it. Like, I guess like if you can up that, like, heck, that's amazing. And I think that's one thing that Baseball United does is that they are always working to make things better and moving the game. And I think that's what's special is that there's a unique group of people who know how this game goes and know how to market and make things work the way they are.
And I also think, as it relates to the Baseball United Cup and Baseball United Season 1, all of us involved in this game, Robbie, at one point or another, have kind of been able to pick out a moment where we truly fell in love with this game and never looked back. Having these franchises on the ground over there finally gives these fans the opportunity to connect with players, to connect with their team, and to truly fall in love with this game.
Definitely. I think that's the cool part is too, is like having all the memorabilia and having the teams that they can root for and having the groups that they can kind of see who's on what team and what's, what kind of team colors are coming into town and things like that. I think it's awesome because just being able to advertise that and being able to kind of have different groups that teams like people can root for in different teams. So I think that's something really awesome is that, it'll kind of get more of the fan traction a little more as well.
Robbie, any message to the fans out there in the Middle East and South Asia who are waiting for these franchises, waiting for you guys to come over there and finally compete again?
Yeah, I mean, we're excited. I mean, I think that's the exciting part is like it's just exciting about thinking about who might come to the games. Like, when we were in Boston, it was like the same kind of thing. Like it was like a whirlpool of different people. Like, and I think that's what's special about Dubai is like there were people from America, there were people from all over the UAE, and people that were coming from Australia and different places. I mean, that's the fun part is that this game kind of unifies everyone together. And I think the exciting part is that for these fans is that they can kind of hook on to players based upon like these interviews and based upon last year when guys were there. And I think that's the fun part is being able to kind of find out what team you want to, support and the players as well. So it's exciting, and I'm just looking forward to the opportunity to get to kind of reconnect with these people and kind of see them at the park. Because I mean, that was what was fun is just seeing the different personalities and kind of asking if they played baseball or whatever it was. And like there were people saying I play cricket, and then there were people saying I play soccer and I play basketball. So it's like just like America, like where you just have different sports, but you all kind of come together under the same roof of saying, ooh, I really want to see what this baseball thing's about.
Robbie Ross, thank you very much for joining me today. It was great to see you again, man, like I said, and I'm looking forward to watching you compete in the coming year.
Liam, thanks a lot, brother.